Oh, really? That.
Welcome to Tony's Time Machine, the fantastic Rebecca Downs, UK female blues vocalist, female vocalist of the year, and emerging artist of the year. You've been voted for all of these awards. You're absolutely fantastic. How are you today?
I'm okay. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yes, I'm very well. Just there's a cold going around. I think it's really it's hitting everybody at the moment. But yeah, other than that, I'm fine.
Great. Well, there's quite a lot, but the ones that come to mind are, well, she's just won a Grammy,
Yeah.
Bonnie Raitt, who's amazing.
Underrated.
Yes, totally underrated. And because I do watch a lot of videos on TikTok, unfortunately, but it's just a bad habit I've gotten into. There's been like a bit of a backlash on there. It's like, who's Bonnie Raitt? I'm like, you should know who Bonnie Raitt is. But anyway, because she's got such a great delivery. Melissa Etheridge, I love Melissa Etheridge. I love her songs and just kind of the fact, independent women sort of doing their own thing in the industry. And obviously people like Ella Fitzgerald, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Freddie Mercury. Like the list could go on for about 7 days. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Freddie Mercury. I didn't want to ask who's your female vocal inspiration just because of that fact, because there's so much power to your voice. I wanted to make sure that I included everybody, because sometimes there can be male vocal inspirations as well, can't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot with me sort of growing up listening to swing and jazz with my parents, so like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. There's just so there's a lot, Tony Bennett, but for me personally the male vocalist was always Freddie.
An absolute superstar. So your lyrics on this particular album, which came out in November, this is The Space Between Us. There seems to be a theme. Tony gave me the album to have a listen to. There seems to be a theme of being in some of the lyrics rather show a theme of being in a situation that you're wanting to get out of and lamenting about that situation. So whether it's about a dying, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously, but when it sounds like The Space Between Us is about a dying friendship, perhaps, whereas, it being hung up on the trials and tribulations of a past relationship and stuff like that that's how it feels. This is how it feels, rather. So one of the exceptions to that is one of my favorite tracks on the album, and that's Not on My Knees. That's one of the exceptions. What's the story behind that? Because it's addressing, for the first time, it's not addressing it's not addressing one person, it's addressing a they, a controlling, persecuting they. So what's that about?
Ooh, yeah, you're very, it's really interesting to hear your take on the other lyrics, and pretty much all of what you said was part of the lyric writing for that, because a lot of them are, not just one story, but they're a kind of collection of stories in one lyric and trying to get a feeling across. But yeah, Not on My Knees, which is one of mine and Steve Burkett, co-songwriter's favorite tracks on the album. That is definitely for us, dare I say, the controlling aspect sometimes of a few things in the music industry, for one, which is kind of one of the hardest industries to be in, because you're always being judged and you're always being told what you should or should not be doing. Even at our level, it's like, oh, don't put that out because that's going to do this, and then, oh, don't say that, and there is quite a lot of that, and so it comes from that point of view.
Right.
But it's also more of a point of view from me as well, about trying to be more independent and not listen to all the voices sometimes in my head. you know, because I think we're sort of inundated, especially as females, with ways we've got to behave, ways we've got to act, ways we've got to dress. You know, I had my hair cut at some point, you know, and I got quite a lot of backlash for that because, you know,
Really?
yeah, because I didn't, you know, I had some, you know, you don't look like a real singer anymore. And it's like, okay. So, yeah. So I think it's kind of, it's to the naysayers as well, kind of thing. Like, you won't get us down. Me and Steve are going to write music until we can't, which I hope is never, because it's what makes us happy.
Yeah.
And that's enough reason to do it. So if you don't want to listen to it, you can just like listen to something else. You don't have to say, you know, you don't have to come back at things. And I think on social media, I mean, I'm quite lucky. I don't get too much of this, but I know a lot of younger artists because I'm a vocal coach who get, especially young female artists, they get an awful lot of trolls online. And this is not somebody who's at the height of Adele. This is just somebody trying to make it, and just somebody at a very base level, and they get a lot of backlash. So it's kind of that as well. There's like an overarching, you won't win. You know?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the fact of your work as a vocal coach. You've been doing it for a while, and I suppose that confidence is what you end up teaching a lot of as well as singing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Did you always have as much confidence as you exude on stage, or did you have to build up to it?
I don't have as much confidence as I exude on stage.
Really?
And I'm always, no, go on, sorry, I couldn't hear you, go on.
No, you get stage fright even now.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. It depends in what situation. If it's at a festival where a lot of the audience may or may not know you, or may not like you, that can be quite tense, and the sound maybe not be quite good because you haven't had much of a sound check. But it's your own gig, it's kind of different, you know, you kind of feel a little bit, you feel more at ease. But for me, yeah, that is one thing that I teach, but the one thing that I teach them is to act confident, because there's very few people, I think, in this industry that are as confident as they appear. And like most people, I've got voices in, you know, telling me, oh, you know, are you good enough? Is your voice good enough? Are your songs good enough? Do you look good enough? Da, 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 da. And I think, you know, so yeah, there's confidence is one thing that I definitely teach, but also something that I definitely try and exude myself. But sometimes I have to like get 2 or 3 songs into a set before I actually start to believe it.
Yeah, I think they call from what you just said there, I think they call it imposter syndrome, don't they?
Yeah, I get that a lot. And it is such a competitive industry, even though I don't see myself as competing with anyone. And that's something else I tell my students, you know, it's your journey. People are on a different journey. That's nothing to do with you, because as soon as you start that, it's like a one-way street to hell in a way, because you can't keep comparing, you know, but it's constantly a competition. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about that, like the Facebook numbers, the Spotify streams, the Instagram followers, the likes on the posts, you know, it's a consistent daily competition that, even though you don't want to be a part of it, is actually still running, whether you want to be a part of it or not. So it's trying to just get it back to what we really enjoy, which is writing and performing music, and trying to sort of keep that at bay a little bit, even though it is tricky, I must admit.
It's so admirable of you to be able to keep your feet on the ground with that sort of thing, because of course you've, as you say, it's an extremely competitive industry, having been brought up, especially in the Western world, where really, if you're not competing, you're not getting better, you're not good, you're only as good as the other person's bad. I mean, there's that, I think it was, I can't remember who said it, it was he who stops being better stops being good. And that's something, you know, if you're not being productive, people are automatically made to feel really guilty. And that's just not what life was made for. I mean, obviously not to get philosophical, but I think that's so good. Having like obviously competed in categories and won, you're still able to realize that the music is what it's about, and to not get caught up in that rat race that can be the music industry. I think that's really admirable.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm really proud, obviously, that I won those awards, but I have to say, they, you know, it was a very on edge time. I felt the whole situation I felt it was very tense, because again, you've got to like, oh, please, you know, vote for who you want, but obviously you want people to vote for you. And it's just a very tense thing, because then you are actually up against other artists, and you just think, but really, it's, you know, I mean, it was lovely to win. I mean, absolutely, like, it blew my mind, and to win the vocalist one twice. But I'm kind of in a mindset of, okay, that's done, so I'll just like get on with other stuff, you know, because it is a tense situation to be a part of. It's, you know, it doesn't sit well with my personality type, you know, to be involved in some sort of race with other artists.
Actually, self-promotion can seem really alien, can't it? I think maybe, I don't know whether it's with women or with this in this country, where we feel like, well, you know, we ought to self-promote, but also humility is, you know, is a virtue. So yeah, it's a tough. I can imagine it's a tough balance to strike. I really like asking this question on Tony's Time Machine. If for whatever reason musical instruments growing up weren't available to you, if for whatever reason you couldn't perform, there was no option for you to perform, what line of work do you think you would have gone into? Now, I'm assuming it would have been something to do with the arts, because of course you've got a degree in fine arts, haven't you?
Yes, I have. So it was either probably before I found singing, I was obsessed with art, but also loved drama and all that kind of thing. But I also love animals, and I love dogs. So if I'd have been sort of, you know, brainy enough, I'd have, you know, maybe like to have worked as a vet or something like that, or at least sort of, you know, I always think now I'd love to have the time to work in a dog shelter and sort of, you know, so you know, I'm a big supporter of the Dogs Trust and the RSPCA. So I sponsor dogs as well as having my own little dog. But yeah, I'd probably say something to do with dogs, actually, and maybe doing the art on the side.
No, that's fair enough. Obviously, you found yourself in the blues genre of music. That was where your talents lay. Now, the blues genre, we love it on Tony's Time Machine here, because it speaks to, you've got to, in order to write a good blues song, I think you need to strike the emotional connection with the listener, whether that's about, you know, a semblance of heartbreak, whether it's a righteous anger, whether it's meant to soothe them. Your music is very, very empowering. How did that sound evolve for you over the years?
Oh, that's you're asking great questions, by the way. Sorry, go on.
The reason I ask it is because, not to get, I won't get too personal, but I think that to be good in the blues as you are, I think people have had to have their fair share of suffering in order to be able to write as they do and sing as they do. So but yes, sorry,
how's it like progressed? Do you mean from songwriting perspective, do you think?
Yes.
You're right. I mean there's a lot of things that have happened to me in my past that have been an inspiration for a lot of songs. There's been you know, at least a couple of quite very bad things that happened, although I don't like to talk about them too much, because I think that's what the music is for, right? I'm also conscious of the fact that everyone that listens to music has also got their own stuff and their own history. So why do they want to hear about mine? But anyway, definitely, if you listen to Little Girl, a track called Little Girl off Back to the Start, which was our first studio album, I think that tells you a lot about me as a person, why maybe I have the imposter syndrome that I do. And that was kind of like me being really honest, and probably one of the most honest songs, but it was very, very raw song. And there was a lot of raw songs written for that album that didn't get on because they were kind of like too raw. They were almost like, because obviously me and Steve write together, but sometimes he writes and the lyrics and the music, and then sometimes I do, and then sometimes together. But for the ones I've written, there's been some that are kind of too visceral to put on, so they've basically just been a cathartic thing for me, and everyone's gone, "Oh my God, Bex, are you all right?" I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. That was years ago. I'm totally okay now. Well, sort of. Okay, whatever. And I know for Steve, because his songwriting, he's incredible. And I think for him as well, it's moved, for us both, it's moved in musically in a direction that is now, with this album, kind of, I think, who we truly are as well. So I think we're kind of a little bit more open with what we say and how we say it. Whereas I think, even though, you know, I've pointed out Little Girl at the first album, I think then we kind of like maybe sometimes pulled back a bit, because I think it can be hard sometimes to say exactly what you want to say and stand behind it, because it's too raw for you. So you kind of not flower it up, but
well, you're not a commodity, are you? You're a person, and you need to. I mean, obviously, as much personality as you put into your music, and of course, as I say, with the blues and what you do, there must be an emotional connection for that, for sure. You don't have to share what you want to share. You know, you can keep. It's entirely up to you. Don't of course, obviously, it can be draining, I should think.
Yeah, it can be, and I think the whole industry as a whole can be draining. So I think for songwriters, I always feel so privileged to be able to write with Steve, who's incredible, and he's the only person I've ever sort of gelled with like that on a songwriting way. And to have I'm forever sort of nurturing my voice and taking care of it, and it's not very rock and roll, believe me. There's no drinking before I go on or anything like that. Constantly thinking about, okay, the performance, the voice, how is it going to sound? What am I going to do? How am I going to sculpt the sound? What does this gig need? And I just see it as a real sort of gift, even though I've had to work at it like everyone does, but like just something to really hold and sort of put in cotton wool in a way, because I just feel really lucky to have found Steve, be able to kind of write together like we do, and to be able to perform to people that want to buy a ticket and listen to us. So every gig that we do, I want to make sure, if I'm not on 100% because I've had COVID and all that sort of stuff, I just it really affects me, because I just think I'm not giving these people everything I can. So it's the whole thing seems like, a beautiful gift to me, that I just need to keep that in my mind.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I don't think people appreciate just how exhausting things like tours and gigs can be, especially if they're back to back. I mean, you're doing 2 gigs in as many days. And I mean, the output, one on February the 17th and one on February the 18th, and the output must be tremendous. But I find that I was reading an article about it the other day, where more and more artists are finding it within themselves to not feel so guilty about saying, right, I'm going to have a little bit of a break. For my mental and physical health, I'm going to have a little bit of a break. And people really respond with a lot of vitriol for that, almost as if, like I said before, you're a commodity. And you know, it's madness, but it is employment at the end of the day, and you are working hard. I'll turn this into a question. Do you have any pre-show like rituals to get you ready for the gig?
Yes, I do. I always steam my voice the morning that I get up. That's pretty dull. I do a lot of vocal warm-ups, but also in the dressing room with the guys, I just try to have a bit of a laugh. Like the last thing we do, it always reminded me, I sort of got the idea from Madonna back in the day when you saw one of her behind the scenes videos, and they were like hugging each other and going, right, before we go on, they were saying a little prayer, you know, not singing the song a little prayer, but they, you know, right, God, bless this. I just think if there is a God, he's probably got better things to do than bless this gig. So I just sort of like do it in a funny way and just go, guys, let's go have some fun. So we do that because I just want everyone to go on with a smile and not thinking that it's the be all in the, you know, if you make a mistake, like life's over, because it really isn't. You know, you're there to entertain and you're there to have a good time so you can put it across to the audience so they have a good time. So the last thing that they hear is, let's have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why you're so successful as a live artist, because it looks as if you're having fun up there and engaging. And that's what people love. If you're having fun, they're having fun. You know, and obviously with your music as well, it adds an extra layer, because I mean, as much as you said, like maybe people don't want to hear all my problems. I mean, they say, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved, don't they?
They do.
And that's I mean, that's what blues music is all about, isn't it? And you know, you're bringing that, and I think, you know, obviously with the rock tone as well, I think it's great, and I think you're bringing it to, because people consider the blues to be, I don't know, I mean, it's not often associated with modern culture, is it?
No, and I think that's like, you know, I think it's important to, I mean, there is, you know, a certain reverence I think you should have towards some of the old blues songs, and maybe some of them maybe leave alone, or more than some of them leave alone, because they were talking about a certain place at a certain time for a certain and a certain really bad part of history. Yeah. So for me, it's always been, you know, a blues influence, but there's a lot of songs that I really wouldn't feel comfortable with singing because I don't think I've got any right to. And I also don't know if there's any reason to. It's like they've been done way better by the original artist. Why am I just gonna, you know, try and do them? Because I can't, you know, that was the original voice saying, you know, talking about things that are really important, or at a time when they're really important. Just, you know, do your, you know, from my perspective, always wanted to do my own thing.
Is there a particular cover of a song that you, from any artist, have you ever heard somebody cover a song and you think it's absolutely fantastic? What's your favorite? Well, I should probably say what's your favorite song, and have you heard a great cover of it?
Oh, what's my favorite?
At the moment, that is, because for some people, I know for me, my favorite song changes every couple of months. I don't know if it's the same for you.
No, it is the same for me, and it's also the way I'm feeling and everything like that. I mean, there's so many great songs. That's such a tough question. I absolutely love the latest Bonnie Raitt album. I mean, I absolutely adore it. So I'm going to say the song that, yeah, Just Like That. Sorry, is it Just Like That? You'll have to check that, but it's the same. It's the number one track, first track on the album. My memory is appalling, but it's the first track at the album. It starts with an amazing guitar, a couple of really tasty guitar licks, and it's her voice that is just, oh my God, it's just beautiful. I mean, obviously it hasn't been covered yet. Cover songs for me that are kind of better than the original. I don't know. I'll have a think about that and come back to it in a bit.
Okay, that's fine. One that occurs to me is, now I've not heard the original of it, but one that people always tell me is like the cover was better than the original was Mad World by Gary Jules.
Oh yeah, that's a good one actually.
Very good. Well, I didn't know it was a cover. But apparently it is, and people have said, oh, don't, and I couldn't even, I've not, I mean, I guess I should listen to the original to compare, but I mean, that's just a masterpiece for me. Oh, and I'll tell you another one as well. I won't, but Hurt by the 9 Inch Nails and Johnny Cash's cover.
Oh yeah, oh my goodness. I mean, there's been a lot of covers of that. Oh yeah, I'm probably gonna have to say, for the one song that's been covered more than any of the song probably is Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. I'd probably say the Jeff Buckley version.
Yes. Couldn't agree more.
I don't know how I didn't think of that when you first said it, but my brain doesn't work great.
Once you put, I find when you put on the spot, hindsight's a wonderful thing. It's like when you're you know, when you're watching a game show from home and you've got the answer in your head, but if you were actually on the game show, it would just fly out your mind.
I'd have no chance on any game show, believe me.
Has anybody? I meant to ask this question a bit earlier. Have you had anyone come to you with an interpretation of one of your songs that's an interesting take on it, that you've discovered things about the song that you didn't know were in there until somebody said, oh, that spoke to me in this way?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few really that people come up and say, oh, I thought it was about this, and it's really, and I that's why a lot of the time I don't like to like oversay what we were thinking when we wrote it, because I just think your own interpretation of a song is really, really important. So I mean, like famous songs I don't look up song meanings or anything like that. I just think, well, it means what it means to me. Sure. But yeah, that's happened a few times. Some with the it's happened with Night Train. It's happened with Believe, I think it's happened with Feel So Right, which was off our very early EP. So yeah, and it's always, I think it's brilliant when people do that. I always want to hear what they think, and what they think is 100% as important or more important than what we wrote it, how we wrote it.
But well, unfortunately we've come to the end of the interview, sadly, but from all of us at Tony's Time Machine, we want our listeners to go out and buy The Space Between Us. It's absolutely fantastic. It's just a lot of emotions came up for me personally. I think it will speak to everyone. It has something in there for everyone, whatever you're going through at the moment.
That's so nice. Thank you.
It's true. It really spoke to me. And there's even a particular song on there that I was like, I thought, I might actually talk to you about it privately off air, because I thought, because it's really touched me in a personal way.
Oh wow.
So once this interview's over, I will speak to you. But I'd like to invite everyone to go to at least one of your gigs coming up this year. So you're going to the Forum in Darlington on the 17th of February.
We are.
The Green Hotel in Kinross on the 18th.
Yep.
And Barnoldswick Music and Arts Centre on the 31st of March.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. Now, you're from Wolverhampton, aren't you? Are they do you find that they're the most exceptional crowd for you because, you're their girl?
No, not really. They're always great, like hometown, and also there'll be other gigs and festivals coming up. That's just what we're sort of ending on at this point in the year. So if you look at the website, there'll be some more popping up for the back end of the year. But I'm really lucky because there's quite a few places in the country, and the Northeast being one when we go, where there's some real sort of hardcore people that follow us, and it feels like a second home in a way, and a lot of places have felt like that. I'm really lucky to have some really hardcore people follow me. I hate the word fans because it's short for fanatic, so it kind of I don't like using that, and it also makes me feel a bit icky. I don't know why. So Actually, it's always great in the Midlands. Obviously, Midlands girl, so absolutely always great. But it's kind of sometimes replicated throughout, different parts of the country, which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it must be wonderful to do gigs in your hometown, but obviously you want to sow the seeds elsewhere where the people want you. So yeah, completely appreciate that. Well, thanks so much for coming on Tony's Time Machine. And yes, when you're next in Manchester, do drop in. And,
Will do, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Bye.